Shalom, and welcome to Challenging Torah. As we enter the Parsha of Shoftim, and Moses continues to speak to the gathered Israelites and says, "Judges and officers you shall appoint in all your gates, which the Lord your God gives you throughout your tribes. They shall judge the people with due justice." Mishpat Tzedek. Wow, what's Mishpat Tzedek? I thought it was just Tzedek, righteousness. And it turns out no. Righteousness is a very complex, double-sided, nuanced event at all times. And so we say a balance between compassion and righteousness, between justice and mercy. This is the moment we enter our preparations for the high holidays. And by the time we reach Yom Kippur, we say, God, move your chair a little bit, God. How about sitting on the other throne, not the throne of Tzedek, this is a righteous judgment, but of Mishpat, of let's have a little more compassion on us as we try to do our best, to do tshuva and return to you. The Eitz Chaim, which I use as my source, says, justice is a cosmic principle that maintains harmony in the world and makes possible the world's continued existence. That's the Eitz Chaim of the conservative movement, their Torah translation. Compassion makes justice possible in the world, and if not, the world would burn up. There's a wonderful Talmudic story of Shammai and Hillel. And it's in Gittin, where a beam has been stolen and placed inside of a huge palace, one of these giant Malibu homes, perhaps. And there is a judgment. We know the beam has been stolen. Shammai says, tear the whole house down just to get the beam. Righteousness. And Hillel says, no, let it be a monetary repayment. There is a responsibility. But we don't need to destroy everything in order to have justice. We're always caught between these two scales. Scales are our way of looking at a representation of justice. And interestingly enough, often we see this image of justice as a female figure with a blindfold on, because we ask for blind justice. This too is based on our Torah portion, which says, "You shall not judge unfairly. You shall not respect persons nor take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the just." This is at the very core of our justice system. And of course we know we violate this every day in every country at all times. You just open a newspaper and there's your event of the day, right? Because justice blinds. Bribery blinds the eyes of the just. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof, we are told. Justice, justice you shall pursue. Justice, justice you shall pursue. Wow, what is the difference between pursuing justice and just following a just path? Tirdof is to run after something. And as Jews, we're commanded to run after justice. That's why we're very often at the front of all social action movements. You look at a list and the names are Jewish, way out of proportion. In many ways, we don't do sacrifices. We don't do half the things that we're told in the book of Leviticus. Our way of worship is to repair the world, to do justice. That's who we are. When we self-define as Jews, or as someone once said, as we go to do a conversion, we don't ask, what are the laws of how you put out a sheep? Or even the laws of Shabbat. What are the laws that say, tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue? How do you do it? First of all, as we saw, mercy and compassion have to be wed with tzedek, righteousness. It's true in all our relationships. When we get married, we have as our blessing before the Kiddushin, we say, in the words of Hosea, May you be joined together, but tzedek u'b'mishpat, right? In justice and mercy, in righteousness and mercy. Any relationship has it. And we look at the words and say, why is it doubled? Why do we have tzedek, tzedek? And one of the explanations is that you have to pursue justice justly. It's a problem. It's a problem for everybody. Today's newspaper, because there's always a justice problem of the day, is about a hunger strike in Israel. And a Palestinian who is facing death because he refuses food, and there's been an order that is a forced feeding. We face the same thing as Americans in Guantanamo. Can we waterboard people? Can we seek justice in a way that is unjust? All nations who are wedded to justice face a problem with what are these boundaries in both protecting our citizens and keeping justice in a just system. In the Jewish terms, we see in the next paragraphs, you need 2 or 3 witnesses in order to condemn someone to death. By the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he who deserves death be put to death. By the mouth of 1 witness he will not be put to death. This is major. Even the American justice system doesn't hold to such strict guidelines. And then we have the problem of power. We have the problem of kings. And God finally says, look, I know you're going to want a king. Everybody else has a king, and you're based on a system of judges, as it explains. Judges you shall appoint. That's how we began our Torah portion. But the king, when you get a king, the limitations on the king, on that executive power, are so strong that it will be totally balanced out by the other factors in your society. What do we say? I will set a king upon you like all the nations that are around you. You shall set him as king, but he shall not multiply horses to himself, neither shall he multiply wives to himself. And we sort of chuckle and say, well, that'll keep him really busy. No, wives are how you made alliances, how you gain power in the world. Horses represents wealth. If the king can't hold wealth and the king can't hold alliances, he's not going to do much. And then it says, what's he supposed to do? He shall write a copy of this Torah in a book from that which is given to him by the priests, the Levites, that he must learn to fear the Lord, his God, and to keep all the words of this Torah and statutes to do them. Who's in charge here? It's the Torah and God. And so this balance of powers would be good for us all to look at as we pursue tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice in our lives. Shabbat Shalom.